picture online lah. Maksudnya kalau katalah kamu nak tengok lagi jelas tentang dia punya kaki ke kan. So you have to look for the picture from online. Okay, so our objective for this practical is actually to familiarize you with the common agricultural pests. Sebelum ni kita dah tengok for our lab, for our lecture today kan. There are a few agricultural pests yang we are going to focus, and then second is to familiarize student with identification. So we about the beneficial insect, which is the pollinator, predator, and also parasitoid. Okay, so we're going to identify them based on their characteristic lah. Sama ada the yang pest as well as the one that beneficial. Okay, so tu adalah our objective today, but we have to do identification based only on the picture. Okay, so when we are talking about morphological characteristic or morpho characters ni, okay, first you have to do observation on either colours. Okay, tengok colour dia colour hijau ke, green ke, black, shiny black ke, and so on. So tu yang you need to describe. So usually we describe characteristic based on colour, shape, and also size. Okay, so this is the common part lah yang akan kita observe. So colour either can be colour of the head, colour of the elytra, shape can be either shape of antenna, shape of body, or maybe shape of the legs, and size can be the overall size can be focused only on the wing size, so or antenna size and so on. So but the characteristic usually represent this three part: color, shape, and size. Okay, of course antenna here I put it in the picture. We have a lot of or different type of antenna. Maybe you may found later, which is almost slightly different from the one listed here. Juga mungkin dia ada a bit different in shape, okay. And then for the size juga mungkin kamu nampak ada yang like cat flea for example here, it's a very small size kan, but if we compare to the cabbage butterfly tadi, Pieris rapae, remember we have in our class, okay, Pieris rapae, cabbage butterfly, of course the size is bigger, right? And then some of it like walking stick ni, dia punya karakteristik very slender, look like a stick. So tu adalah karakteristik yang you will describe for your specimen or for your sample pictures. Okay, so for the first one, we will focus only a few families within, I think 4 main order, 4 or 5 main order, I think 4. Okay, so we have Coleoptera, Diptera, Hymenoptera, we have Odonata, I think 4 kot. But anyway, ada lagi yang lain, cumanya during our class, our session today, we just focus on that lah. Kan, but because there are a lot of insect out there, and since kita tak boleh tengok sampel based on gambar semata-mata, so tu yang a bit harder, so we just focus a few family only. So for Coleoptera, tadi kita dah tengok in our class, there are a lot of example for Cucleonidae, which is weevil. Okay, so the main character for weevil is their long snout or beak here, as you can see in the picture, and they have geniculate antenna. Okay, there are 2 parts. Dia macam geniculate ni is more like an elbow. Maksudnya sebahagian, there are a few segment in the first part, then there are also a few segment in the second part. Cumanya dia separate first and second tu, second part tu shape dia macam elbow, macam macam tangan kamu lah kan dekat siku ni. Okay, so this is how they look like. Other than that, what what are the characteristic do you think insect ni ada based on the picture? Okay, anyone want to start? Because this is a discussion tau. You have to give your opinion based on the picture. Which part actually you want to describe? Okay, anyone?
Elytra.
Okay, they have elytra. What other than they have elytra, what are you going to say about elytra? Apa yang kamu nampak? Anyone want to try?
Metallic color.
Yes, metallic color, and you can say that okay, it's black metallic color. Okay, and then depending on the species, juga let's say you have tadi we have Cosmopolitan Sordidus kan. Yang tu dia punya size is we consider it as medium to larger size lah, medium to large size. Okay. So you can describe that as well. So selain tu apa lagi yang kamu nampak here in the picture?
Head type.
Sorry?
Head type. The type of the head.
Sorry. I cannot hear.
The head type.
Okay, the head type. What about the head type?
It's pointing downwards.
Okay, head's pointing downward.
Pointing posteriorly.
Are you sure it's pointing posteriorly?
I'm not sure, Doctor.
Well, okay. This one is a bit tricky kan sebab dia it's not really postural and it's not juga anteriorly tau. Cumanya if you can imagine sebab posterior end dia maksudnya how to say ke belakang kan maksudnya, but this one it's not actually like that. So you may skip that kind of characteristic. Maksudnya ada part yang you cannot say okay dia sebenarnya pointing backward ke to front ke bawah ke. Okay, because some of the characteristic tu dia macam tak nampak very clear lah. Okay, cumanya if you can imagine dia punya mouth adalah at the end of the rostrum dia ni. Okay, so it's not if you think logically it's not actually ke depan jugalah kan sebab dia punya beak pointed ke bawah. Okay, so well you can try describe based on dia punya kedudukan of kepala of mouth part actually. Okay, but certain in certain specimen mungkin kita tak nampak jelas lah at that part. So other than that, apa lagi yang you think you can explain ataupun you can describe this from this picture?
Mouse part dia sucking.
Mouse part sucking. Are you sure Kukloni is sucking?
Ke chewing.
Kuklonidae.
Chewing.
Is it sucking? Anyone? Nak agree ke tak agree ke? If your friends ada nak apa? Debate ke? Your friend said sucking. Is it? Or is it true or is it not? Tak ada orang nak argue? So everyone agree dia adalah sucking?
I think it's chewing.
You think what?
Chewing.
Chewing. Okay, you think it's a chewing. Okay. Anyone lagi yang nak argue? Okay, one of you said chewing, one of you said sucking. Okay, others? Tak ada orang nak agree. Which one? I senyap je semua orang. Where is everybody? But it doesn't matter salah ke tak, kita betul. Kalau yang salah, kalau betul kita agree je lah kan. So don't be shy or don't get silent sahaja kat belakang tu kan. So agree ke tak agree ke dengan kata chewing, agree ke tak agree dengan kata sucking? Tak ada orang. Okay, anyway, it's actually a chewing part. Even though you see dia macam seolah-olah macam macam straw tu kan, yang siphoning part tu kan. But actually dia ada mouth part yang for chewing. So you can imagine dia punya part yang ada mandible, and for the one that chew tu sebenarnya ada dekat hujung, very small. So this insect, okay, is actually chewing. Even though they have long beak. Okay. So dia sebenarnya ada mulut kat sini, ada gigi, ada mandible untuk cut and so on. Here at the end of the at the tip of the beak. Okay, dia bukan untuk sucking. Sucking is actually yang the one yang plant set sucking tu, which is small one like hemipterans. Okay, all the hemipterans adalah sucking. Okay, piercing sucking. And then we have mosquito kan, which also sucking. And then the one that like butterfly, we have rather than call sucking, we call it as a siphoning. Dia macam straw, sedut. Okay. So that one, the one yang feed on liquid. But this guy, Cuclionid, is actually feed on leaf, feed on maybe seed. So they have mouth part for chewing. So selain daripada tu, what is the other characteristic that you can say for this Coleoptera, this Cuclionidae?
Dia ada
Antena dia.
What about the antenna? Before this, I said antenna ni geniculate. So what with small club? What other thing you want to say about antenna?
Dia capitate ke?
No, it's geniculate.
Oh, macam ni.
Yeah, it's geniculate. Dia bentuk sebenarnya macam elbow. Dia ada certain part dia macam bengkok macam your tangan, elbow. Okay. But of course dia ada banyak-banyak segmen lah. First part ni yang pun ada banyak segmen, and second part yang tempat dia elbow tu pun ada banyak segmen. At the end of the antenna, they have a small club. Ni club yang kita nampak macam a bit bigger than other size kan. So tu we call it club. Tadi your friends ada nak cakap something sebelum antenna ni? What is it? Tak ada dah?
Kaki dia untuk crawling. The leg.
Okay, kaki for crawling. Yes, okay, yes, it's true. Kaki dia for crawling. But you can say other thing about kaki as well. Okay, which is as you can see here. Okay, although middle part ni tak nampak sangat kan. But hind leg and foreleg, as you can see here, dia punya femur. Okay, remember we have femur, tibia, tarsus, which is at the end kan. Claw, tarsus, tibia, femur, and then we have trochanter and coxa. Kalau terbalik lah. Kalau dari badan, we have coxa, trochanter, femur, tibia, and tarsus. So if you look at this picture, their femur, okay, kamu nampak dia enlarged kan. Dia macam besar compared to other parts, which is part tu a bit more slender. But for the femur, it a bit enlarged, especially at the one that we can say is a distal end yang bersambung dengan tibia. Okay. Other than that, anyone? Tak ada dah? Nak idea dah? Okay. remember I said about punctured, kan dia sculptured or punctured, where kalau if you look at the thorax here, okay, as well as a bit underside of the prothorax and also on the elytra, okay, kamu nampak yang lubang putih putih-putih, not actually putih, it's actually with dust color chocolate. So this is because dia punya body is actually punctured, or we can say it's how to say, dia macam seolah-olah berlubang tau. Maksudnya dia bukan berlubang, it's just that you imagine that, okay, if you punctured, katalah kamu cucuk jarum ke atas span ke apa kan, so dia tinggal kesan macam lekuk kan, so their body is actually covered with that. That's why kamu nampak yang di putih-putih ni actually dia adalah macam dust ataupun debu atau where macam debris terlekat tau dalam that kind of surface. Maksudnya kan dia berlekuk kan, so terlekatlah this thing yang debris ni, so nampaklah yang putih-putih. So it's actually dia punya body is we can say it's punctured or dented, not dented, we can say it's punctured lah. There's another word which is apa tadi saya sebut kan, I forgot dah. Okay, but you can say it's punctured. The structure, sorry?
Dia tercakap tu sculptured.
Yes, sculptured pun boleh juga, bersculpture. Maksudnya dia ada, it's not smooth. Okay, instead of you can say it's smooth, it can be a sculptured or punctured. Dia macam berlubang-lubang actually. Not actually betul berlubang, dia cuma macam lekuk-lekuk lah. Okay, so that's how you describe the characteristic of the organism lah. This one is a cuclionid. Cumanya kita sebut, since kita describe based on picture. Otherwise kalau katalah you have your sample, mungkin kamu boleh pusing, angkat dia punya elytra ke, tengok underside of the abdomen ke. But for now, since we cannot do that thing, so we identify based on the apa yang kita nampak sekarang lah. Okay, but you can Google see the characteristic and other characteristic that listed for under cuclionid, or maybe you can compare this kind of cuclionid with other type of cuclionid. What is the difference between two species or two genus? So tu juga kira dia punya karakteristik lah. But in general, you can say that they have elytra kan. And then you can say also about the hindwing, which is membranous, located, you already know, even pun tak nampak kat sini, but you already know that the characteristic of the hindwing for Coleoptera, which is membranous and then folded underneath the elytra or covered by the elytra. So all you can see here is actually the elytra. Okay, so yang bawah ni still ada actually membranous hindwing. So this is our first sample picture. Okay, now we have second group, which is chrysomelid. Okay, here I put it, okay, they have an antenna not partially surrounded by the eyes. Okay, remember tadi we have seram bisik, where I said to you yang seram biside tadi, yang mango trambora, remember kelas pagi tadi, yang I said dia punya mata is actually seolah-olah macam bentuk C terbalik. Okay, where inside dalam C tu, kan dalam bentuk huruf C, inside tu actually covered with, bukan covered, maksudnya dia surround the antenna. But here in for chrysomelid, okay, you can say that dia punya eyes is not actually partially surrounded the antenna. So antenna dia tu bukan duduk tercover dalam bentuk C. So mata dengan antenna is totally separated. Maksudnya mata dulu, and then kat depan tu ada dia punya antena. If you can see from the picture lah, mungkin tak nampak clear sangat, but it's not like the Korean like the longhorn beetle tadi. Okay, yang saya kata bentuk C and then antena duduk tengah C tu, which is mata tu actually surround the antenna. Okay, that's why we said here having antenna not partially surrounded by the eyes. Okay, so tak tercovered dengan mata dia. And then here, okay, they have 4 segmented tarsi with the third tarsal segment notch where they are connected with the fourth. Okay, here maksud dia kat sini, dia seolah-olah you can see they have 4 tarsi. Okay, 4 tarsi. Tarsi, remember we have 4 tarsus, okay, but 4 segmented tarsus. Okay, kalau tengok kat gambar, we have femur. Okay, femur yang enlarged a bit ni adalah femur, and then later the one that's slender, if you look at the picture, is actually tibia, and then we have tarsus. Okay, now they are talking about 4 tarsus or 4 tarsi segment where the third segment tu is actually connected with the fourth. So maksudnya you cannot see clearly yang there is a 4 segment. Okay, secara generalnya you can say that okay, you can only see 3 segment. Okay, if you look at the picture, kalau kamu tengok kat kaki dia ni, kamu nampak 1 segmen, 2 segmen, 3 segmen. You can only see 3 segment. Betul tak? Anyone agree with me?
Yes.
Kan kamu nampak 3 je kan?
Yes.
So obviously nampak 3 je. Since dia kata the last segment, which is the third one, okay, kalau kira dari depan lah, dari tarsal ni, okay, the one yang ke fourth ni yang bersambung dengan tibia, actually 3 dan 4. Okay, maksudnya there are some small part here, I'm not sure whether you can imagine or not sebab gambar ni memang tak clear lah. But the third one yang bersambung dengan tibia ni, it's a fourth one, okay. So fourth dengan third tu sebenarnya dia nampak bersambung. It's just ada a bit notch ataupun nampak macam if you look under the microscope, of course macam ni tak nampak. You can only see 3, okay. But for this guy punya karakteristik, sebenarnya under microscope you can see there is some sort of macam a bit separation. Dia tak nampak clear macam 3 segmen ni. Yang ni kamu boleh nampak obviously kan, kamu cabut 1 and then another 2 tinggal. Okay, but it's actually 4. Cuma ni yang 4 tu dia actually combine dengan yang third, yang betul lah yang third tu. So yang 4 tu tak nampak. 4 is we can say dia macam a very small part. Okay, kalau kita cabut satu-satu, you just only can see 3. Sebab yang ketiga yang bersambung dengan keempat dan tibia tu tak nampak sangat lah yang keempat ni. Okay, so you can imagine dia punya karakteristik macam tu lah. For chrysomeli, you can only see 3, but it's actually 4. Okay, and then of course they are shiny metallic. Okay, tadi remember our 15-second quiz, okay, the one that I show picture macam tortoise beetle tu, memang tortoise beetle lah, macam kura-kura kan, rather than ladybugs, okay, yang kamu nampak dia punya bentuk badan lain sikit. Okay, tortoise beetle tu pun juga chrysomeli. If you realize, even pun dia transparent, it's actually a bit more shiny metallic. Okay, so for chrysomeli dia, you cannot expect that dia punya shape is similar even though dia dalam satu family. Okay, here you can see bentuk macam ni kan, where for this specimen, for this picture, you can see the hind femur is very enlarged. Okay, kat sini right, very enlarged for hind femur compared to middle and for femur. For femur tak besar sangat pun, even middle femur pun tak besar, but at the end the hind femur is very enlarged. So tu adalah karakteristik for this chrysomeli. But if you are talking about yang chrysomelic yang kita tengok tadi, first we have Aulacophora. Remember Aulacophora flavomarginata, melon beetles tu tadi, dengan Fovecolis. That one also chrysomelic. So you imagine dia punya shape is totally different, tak sama macam this guy. Okay, yang tadi tu tak ada pun enlarged femurs, hind femurs. And then in fact, gambar yang kita tengok tortoise beetle, which is for your 15-second quiz tu pun, the shape is totally different. Okay, so you cannot say that chrysomelic ni semua ada bentuk karakteristik ataupun bentuk body yang sama. No. They're actually very broad group. Okay, dia ada macam-macam bentuk. Ada bentuk nak bulat tadi, yang ni bentuk this kind macam lain. But for based on this picture, okay, so you can say that okay, this guy have shiny metallic and then the color is almost red kan, reddish brown. And then their foreleg, hind leg, femurs is very enlarged. Okay, so and then you can say other things juga lagi. What others yang you can say about this specimen? Apa lagi yang kamu rasa you can say about this specimen?
Antenna dia filiform.
Okay, yes, antenna is actually more towards filiform. Okay, even though kamu nampak dia macam bulat-bulat kan, it's not actually moniliform, it's more like a filiform. And sometimes, okay, this is based on the picture, but sometimes you can see the other chrysomelic that have more like a club. The end of the tip, dia ada macam club as well. So kamu nampak dia macam halus. At the end, mungkin 3 daripada tips ni akan ada besar. To depend on the chrysomelic apa yang you identify lah. But in general, you can say that okay, they have metallic colors and dia punya have varied antenna from filiform here. It can be a club as well. Okay, so 2 characteristic dia. Other than that, what other thing you can say?
Chewing mouth part.
Yes, chewing mouth part as well. Kan, so mulut dia chewing mouth part and this guy, okay, here mulut dia actually ke depan. Okay, instead of yang tadi kita macam confuse kan nak kata cochleonid tadi. But this guy, we consider it mulut dia adalah ke hadapan. The arrangement of the mouth part ke hadapan. Okay, other things? Apa lagi yang you want to say?
Kaki dia maybe saltatorial.
Kaki dia maybe saltatorial. Well, it's not actually here we cannot say that the leg is actually saltatorial. Okay, sebabnya because of the shape of yang hind leg ni yang menyebabkan dia tak boleh, we cannot say it's truly saltatorial. Okay, so that part mungkin we have to skip. Maksudnya kita tak boleh guna that kind of characteristic to say okay, this one is saltatorial. No. Okay, sebab dia ada karakteristik yang actually macam berlawanan. You may describe that, okay, katalah if you see here, the head is actually smaller than thorax. You can describe that one as well, okay, because sometimes there are organism or there are beetles that have a very large head compared to their thorax or prothorax. Here is prothorax lah. The one that you see here is actually prothorax because meso and metathorax is actually underneath the wing lah kan, sebab wing dia duduk di meso and metathorax. So the one that you see here yang awal-awal ni adalah dia punya prothorax. Okay, so prothorax is wider and longer than the head. You can say that for the identification purpose. Okay. Okay. So That's all I think for this chrysomelid, the one yang we can see. Okay, now we have another group which is Scarabidae. Okay, so Scarabidae, you can see here body is very short, macam gemuk kan. And then they have distinct club antenna composed of plate called lamellae. So we have lamellate antenna where dia bentuk club tapi club dia macam flat. Okay, dia susun seolah-olah macam ada tiga. Please check again your nota ataupun you can Google from the internet, which is lamellate type. Okay, so dia bentuk club, cumanya club tu tersusun rapat, ada 3 atau 4 bentuk seperti lamella, or we call it here lamella. Ni adalah dia punya antena. Mata you cannot see clearly from above. Okay, there is a eyes here near the antenna. Okay, so here is the antenna. Ni adalah part yang lamellate, the tip of antenna yang we call it as lamella tu tadi. Maybe 3 to 4 lamella lah here. Okay, so other things selain daripada antena, selain daripada body start, what do you think you can describe this Scarabidae?
Black metallic.
Yes, black metallic. Of course, you can use that. Lagi? Other things you can try?
Elytra following.
Elytra, what?
Following.
Meaning that they have elytra. Of course, all beetle have elytra. That yes, you can somehow say it if you compare with other order. Okay. Any other thing?
Dia ada scutellum.
Ada scutellum. Of course, yes. Yes. Yang ni, okay, sebelum ni kita tak pernah jumpa, right, the word scutellum, right? Okay, I never said it to you. Okay, so here is actually part yang as you can see above here. I'm not sure whether you can see my how to say mouse ke tak, arrow ni ke tak kan. But there is a what we call it. Sekejap . Okay, here is the one that we call it as a scutellum, this part. Okay, so usually it's very distinct in hemipterans. Sometimes not scarabid lah, but for this picture you can see this part. Okay, other things?
Dia ada setik, apa tu? Hair.
Where?
Ada kat kaki dia.
Yes, you can say that. But okay, sometimes okay, between setae and then bristle. Okay, here when we are talking about hair, there are different type of hair tau, depending on the punya thickness. Okay, so sometimes we can say that, okay, this one is we can just use, kalau katalah dia punya bulu ni very thin, we can say just as a hair tau. But sometimes we can say that bila dia ada bulu yang thick, very tebal and very, how to say, dia macam strong, macam very erect, macam keras je kan. So you call it as a bristle. Okay, B-R-I-S-T-L, bristle. So it's actually kind of hair juga. Cumanya when we are talking about hair, mungkin orang imagine dia adalah a bit thinner, macam your rambut kan, atau, but for this one dia macam fully erect, macam keras dan tegak. That's how we describe a bristle. And then there are also juga some part of, if you see at the leg here, other than bristle or hair you kata tadi ni, okay, there are also part yang kamu nampak yang a bit thicker ni lagi. Okay, ni actually is not hair. We can call it as a spine. Okay, macam berduri. Here, as you can see, dia punya tibia. Okay, this part is actually tibia. Ada at the end of the tibia ni ada spine part. Yang ni pun ada, kaki belakang pun ada, but the one in 4 legs not very much clear lah kan, tak nampak. But middle and hind leg, there are spine or spur, you can call it spur as well, at the end of the tibia. Okay, so this is also the characteristic for this beetle. Okay, other than that, apa lagi yang boleh cakap? Yes, sculptured and punctured, you can say that as well. Kan, nampak kan dia punya, especially in prothorax. Right, nampak ni yang lubang-lubang ni? Okay, the elytra is not much obvious lah dekat elytra, but there still juga ada, and there also ada striae which is macam lurah but not very much obvious. Okay, macam lurah ni maksudnya bukan dot tapi dia memanjang kan. But it's not very much obvious. There are also other beetles yang lagi obvious dia punya striae ni. Okay. Other than punctured, or apa lagi yang you can say about this organism?
A small head compared to the prothorax.
Yes, they have a very small head kan, compared to the prothorax kan. You can say dia punya kepala ni very small, here je mungkin I don't know 1/5 or maybe a bit 1/5 atau how to say, mungkin 3/10 dari but it has a very small head compared to the prothorax. Yes. Okay, other? What other thing you can say?
Ada antena.
Sorry?
Antena.
Antenna, yes, antenna. What other things you can say about antenna other than the club and lamellae? Apa lagi nak cakap pasal antenna selain dia?
Ada short antena.
Yes, this group consider have short antenna, okay, compared to other group lah kan, macam tadi like apa, Chrysomelid, they have a long antenna, but this one they have, yes, short antenna. You can say that as well. Okay, other things?
Yang kaki depan dia tu macam gigi-gigi tu apa?
Yes, okay. Kaki depan dia you see macam ada gigi-gigi kan? Okay, this is actually modification for digging. Okay, other than mole cricket yang kita tengok sebelum ni, I think I show you a picture of mole cricket yang saya kata kaki depan dia is for digging. Okay, Fusoria. But this guy or this scarabid also have legs which is modified for digging. Okay, it's just that of course since they're totally different insect, different order of insect, of course kaki dia tak serupa lah kan, tak adalah 100% serupa macam mole cricket. But yes, dia punya tibia here, as you can see here, this is a part of tibia. There are femur yang tersembunyi somewhere below dia punya prothorax. Okay. Kamu nampak dia macam ni sebabnya dia punya tibia is modified for digging. Okay, fossorial legs and almost other legs as well. Kalau kamu nampak kat sini kan, compared to dia punya tarsus, his tibia is very large and then dia ada spur as well. So all these thing, karakteristik ni dia membantu dalam dia punya proses kira movement atau dia punya menggali tu lah. Okay. So that's why kalau kamu nampak dia macam kaki bentuk macam ni, tibia dia totally different like other tibia segment kan, macam kita tengok yang Chrysomelid tadi, because it's modified solely for digging, untuk menggali. Okay, so let's move to other sample. Okay, now we have Hymenoptera. Okay, Epidae. Okay, the main characteristic you can say is they have a branch hair. Okay, of course kamu tak nampak dia obviously kat sini lah, but sebenarnya dia punya bulu adalah bercabang, branches, instead of satu single hair alone. Dia sebenarnya bercabang and then covered throughout the body. So you can see dekat kepala ada, dekat thorax ada, bawah thorax ada, dekat abdomen ada, except for wing. Tak adalah dekat wing kan. But even though dekat part of the legs pun ada this kind of hairs, okay, bulu-bulu. And then the first segment of the hind tarsi is enlarged and bear a pollen basket. Remember they have modification, legs modification. We call it as a pollen basket to carry pollen. Okay, dia bukan bakul. Remember, like I said, dia bukan bakul. It's actually enlargement of the surface of the tarsi as well as femur. Okay, so that dia boleh tampal pollen dekat kaki dia. Kalau kaki dia slender je, kat mana dia nak tampal kan? So because of the surface of the tarsi tu dah melebar, so adalah tempat atau ruang dia untuk tampal pollen so that it can carry the pollen to the nest. Okay, so we call it pollen basket, especially at the end or the hind leg. Okay, kan kat depan ni you cannot see obvious dia punya enlargement of the hind of the tarsi, sebabnya other legs is used for landing, maksudnya membantu dalam landing atau dia bergerak, but kaki belakang memang dimodify untuk carry pollen. Okay, so this is the characteristic for Epidae. Epidae, of course, you have honeybee. Okay, the one that carry collect honey and carry pollen. Okay, so what other thing you can say about this picture? Selain daripada dua karakteristik tadi.
It has large eyes.
Yes, they have large eyes. And you can say that. Lagi? Other things? Yes, you can say sting. They have sting. They have stinger, which is modification of ovipositor. Now they have, especially workers, it doesn't have ovipositors, the one yang dia guna untuk lay eggs. Okay, So now dia punya ovipositors atau dia punya abdomen is modified. At the end of the abdomen ada segmen yang dimodify menjadi sting. Kan? So tu juga is the characteristic for the RPJ. Okay, you can use that as well. Other than that,
Membranous forewing.
membranous forewing. Yes, they have both forewing and hindwing membranous. And you can say juga pasal sayap dia ni, okay, it's totally hyaline, maksudnya HYALIN, okay, maksudnya dia totally transparent. Of course, it's equipped with venation, okay. You can say that they have a closed venation instead of terbuka, maksudnya dia tak ada ending. This one ada dia bentuk macam closed venation, maksudnya kamu nampak dia macam sel how to say, sekeping tapi bersambung dengan venation ni. For this picture it's not very clear, mungkin kamu boleh google online later dia punya sayap, but we can say that they have a closed venation yang tertutup compared to other insect that have yang open venation, dia tak ada sel, maksudnya dia punya
Dia macam straight tu je.
sorry?
Dia macam straight je dia punya tu.
Yes, dia punya ni straight je, dia tak ada dia tak tertutup dia punya venation. Okay, so you can say that as well. And then I'm not sure whether you are familiar with this atau tak, but from this picture kita tak boleh nampak lah, but actually dia punya hindwing, okay, is quite small compared to the forewing, so it's almost like mungkin less than half of the size of the forewing. Sometimes ada yang a bit half lah, it depend on the species, but usually it's very small hindwing compared to the forewing. Forewing dia ni quite big compared to the hindwing lah. Other than that,
Base abdomen broadly joined the thorax.
abdomen broadly joined with the thorax. Maksudnya dia tak constricted lah maksud kamu. Okay, okay, here it's actually rather than say it's broadly jointed, remember we have Symphyla, Apocrita. I think I did mention there are two types of Hymenopterans, which is yang fully jointed abdomen dengan dia punya thorax, but this one is actually the one that have constrict. So rather than say dia broadly jointed, no, actually it's a bit constrict somewhere here. Cumanya kamu tak nampak because of the bulu ni. Okay, so it's not broadly jointed between abdomen dengan thorax. Another group, yes, Hymenop, there is another group yang ada broadly jointed. But this Epidae no. Dia sebenarnya ada there is a part that we can say is constrict somewhere here. Cuma dia tak nampak sebab because of the bulu. Okay, selain daripada tu,
Mouthpad for lapping.
mouthpad for
Lapping.
okay, you can say it's not actually 100% lapping tau. It's also there is how to say, a situation where we call it ada part yang since it's also have mandible and so on, dia boleh menggigit. Okay, so if you imagine dia ada part mandible where it's supposed to use for chewing. Okay, so here for B, we can describe it as they have a mouthpart for chewing lapping. Maksudnya dua-dua. Okay, so where one part where they bolehkan chew pollen and chew other part and other part of plant, and then there are also part yang membolehkan dia sedut honey. Okay, so it's actually more like a chewing lapping part. So dua-dua ada rather than just lapping. Lapping ni more like macam Musca domestica or housefly. Okay, kamu nampak kan dia hinggap atas lantai, hinggap atas meja, dia akan nampak dia macam seolah-olah siphoning, dia not siphoning, dia macam lap permukaan or surface. So you can say that tu adalah lapping, but this one is more like a chewing lapping. So dia both combination untuk chew as well as untuk kira sedut liquid. Okay, other than that, what other things yang boleh describe? Mouthpart, yes. And sorry?
Geniculate antenna.
Yes, they have geniculate antenna. Right. You can see the bentuk elbow. Kan satu part yang ni and then part ke bawah. So they have geniculate antenna as well. And then when we are talking about position of the head or position of the mouth part, dia downward. Kamu nampak dia punya mulut ke bawah rather than ke depan atau ke belakang. It's actually ke bawah. Okay, so that's all we can say based on the picture. There's still other parts sebenarnya yang you may use it to differentiate bee with other hymenopterans, but then cumanya kita tak boleh nampak clearly lah. Okay, because sometimes the venation, okay, the shape of the venation, the shape of the cell ni yang kita kata yang enclose the venation ni lah kan. Okay, the shape of the cell juga mempengaruhi atau digunakan dalam dia punya identification purpose. Okay, cumanya for the large group Apidae is a family, so kita tak pakailah venation or shape of cell tu untuk dia punya identification. Yang tu if you want to go more detail into genus or specific species, then you have to use it for identification purpose. Okay, now we have this guy, also Hymenoptera, Formicidae. Okay, semua orang kenal semut. Right, so they have here again geniculate antenna. Antenna macam elbow, here geniculate antenna. Okay, metapleural gland. This one actually you only can see the shape. It's actually somewhere above here. Okay, dekat dia punya meta, somewhere in meta. But from the picture tak nampak lah. Dia cumanya ada under microscope you can see the part where we call it a metapleural gland, because this gland ni macam is how to say, it's important for this insect untuk dia punya navigation and so on. So this is the area, I'm not sure whether you can see my arrow ke tak kan, but somewhere here there is a metapleural gland. Okay, cumanya kat gambar ni tak nampak lah, but that one can differentiate Formicidae, okay, and from other Hymenoptera. Okay, and then they have strong constriction on their second abdominal segment into a knot-like petiole. Okay, and then they have large mandible and very strong mandible. As you can see here, because this guy is actually, the habit is actually predator. So of course for those yang act as predators, they usually have very strong mandible. But except for assassin bug, okay, assassin bug I mentioned before, dia juga adalah predator, but that one because they suck on body cell. Okay, so maksudnya dia adalah hemipteran, dia tak perlu, dia just cucuk masuk like macam nyamuk and dia sedut the body fluid, plant set body fluid, okay, of the dia punya prey. But this one, Formicidae, they have very large mandible. Okay, sebab dia makan or capture dia punya prey and also used for fighting. So they have very large mandible here and very strong. And then they have not like petiole ni, yang ni mungkin tak nampak sangat. Okay, sebabnya dia constrict dekat dia punya abdomen ni. But yang kamu nampak node last ni, it's actually the node, the abdominal segment dah. Dia macam constrict 2 kali. I'm not sure whether you can imagine it or not. Okay, this one dia ada nodes just 1 je tau. But there are a species that you can see 2 nodes before the very large abdomen. Nodes ni sebenarnya part of the abdomen as well. Okay, dia bukan thorax. Dia memang dah abdomen. Cumanya it's constricted like a petiole. Okay, so ni maksud karakteristik ni lah. Okay, other than that, what we can say about this characteristic of Formicidae. Apa lagi? Sorry? Yes, they has ocelli, kind of ocellus. It's actually 3. I'm not sure whether you can see ke tak. Sebenarnya ada 3 kat atas ni. Okay, somewhere here. This is actually the eyes, the compound eyes. Okay, but here they have 3 ocelli and you can see obviously lah sebenarnya dekat sampel. Okay, this can be seen very clearly, dia punya ocelli. Other than that, they have 3 actually ocelli. Yeah.
Compound eyes dia small.
Yes, you can say that compound eyes, they're not very large. You can consider as small. Other than that?
Slender thorax.
Sorry?
Slender thorax.
Slender thorax. Okay. Well, if we can say it's slender, yes, it is compared to long and wide. Panjang dan lebar tu, of course, it's more slender, but it's not only on the prothorax. It's actually involved juga other type of thorax, which is pro and meso and metathorax. Okay, so of course dia nampak macam slender. Okay, other things?
Kaki dia macam panjang.
Yes, long and slender. You can say kan, long, thin, mungkin thin, kurus kan, long and slender. Okay, yes, you can say the leg for apa kan, type of leg ni nampak dia sama je, kaki 3, kaki depan, tengah, belakang. It's actually there is not much modification kan, dia untuk crawling, untuk jalan. Okay, other than that, what are the things you can see?
Ada mandibles.
Yes, tadi kita dah sebut dah mandible dia ada kan. Very large and strong mandible here. Mandible large and strong.
Ada claw.
Yes, they have claw. Cumanya in picture you cannot see lah. Most of the insect ada claw. So it's a bit tricky to use that kind of how to say the characteristic. But sometimes, okay, sometimes there is a part of claw that can be used for identification, where sometimes they just ada satu claw. Sometimes they have a fork atau bercabang like 2 claw. Maksudnya kadang kamu nampak dia just macam satu penyangkut je. Dia macam a single claw. Okay, so tu juga boleh membezakan lah. But in this case, for Formicidae, you cannot actually use a claw to separate from other groups. Sebabnya if you say specifically mungkin about shape ke, I don't know, maybe lah kan ada. But if you say that okay, there is a claw, other type or other order of insect also have claw. So yang tu a bit tricky lah. Cumanya kalau we specialize betul-betul, okay, claw dia rupa macam mana, and then maybe apa dia punya shape ke kan, what I'm not sure about that lah. Cumanya ada part yang we can use claw as a characteristic, but for Misidae usually we don't use claw. Okay, other than that, apa lagi yang you can say about this insect?
Kat ujung abdomen macam ada sting, macam warna putih tu sting.
Yes, they can of course for Misidae ada sting. Okay, it's just mungkin kamu tak realise je lah yang semut dekat rumah kamu tu kan, yang workers tu instead of use their stinger, they more likely use dia punya mandible untuk gigit kamu kan, rather than use a stinger. But for Misidae, yes, since it's hymenopterans, they have part yang ada sting. Okay, they have groups yang ada sting, especially the one yang macam like soldier, they more equipped with sting as well as very strong mandible. So sometimes even pun species yang sama, because as you remember, this insect is actually kita kata dalam kasta, so dia ada queen, dia ada reproductive group which is male and female yang reproductive, and then they have workers, they have soldiers. So each caste sometimes ada different type or different characteristic juga. Maksudnya between the kasta. Okay, but in general, yes, they have stinger. Okay. Other than that, apa lagi yang you nampak kat sini?
Tibial spurs.
Okay, they have you said they have tibia spur. Okay, especially the one yang 4 ni kan, mungkin kamu nampak ke, yes, they have spur actually. Cumanya from this picture sometimes kita tak betul-betul attentive kan. But yes, they have spur actually in at the tibia. At the end of the tibia ada spur. And then you can also say juga about the legs. Okay, remember we have coxa, trochanter, femur, tibia and tarsus. Then at the end of the tarsus is claw lah, right? But if you look here, okay, kamu nampak dia punya coxa, they have very enlarged coxa compared to other part of the leg, or compared to other segment of the leg. Kan yang lain ni macam slender, yang trochanter mungkin a bit smaller here, but they have very enlarged coxa for this specimen lah, for this gambar. Kan nampak ni adalah dia punya coxa. Okay, yang ni pun dia punya coxa. Trochanter is actually here. Okay, yang small one here. So coxa, trochanter, femur, tibia, and then this part is tarsus, at the end is claw. Okay, so now let's move to another part. Okay, now we have Musidae, which is housefly, okay, Musca domestica. The antenna is arista or aristate. Dia punya shape is aristate. Later kamu tengok balik your antenna. And the arista, part of antenna tu tadi, is often plumose. Maksudnya ada part dekat antenna, arista dia adalah plumose. Plumose berbulu ataupun hairy, or you can say hairy lah.